Our press release is entitled, "Let us Restore Hope," with a quotation from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans, chapter 15, verse 13. It says, "May the God of hope fill you with joy and peace in believing, so that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit."
It was a fair statement. It was a balanced statement. I like the fact that when Kenya Kwanza wanted to fight the statement, they were unable to fight the content of the statement. So what they were doing is they were fighting the persons who issued the statement. Is there anything in the statement that was untrue? Is there anything in the statement that was not a true reflection and representation of what is happening in Kenya? The statement was balanced. The statement was painting the true picture of what is happening in the republic that is Kenya. Catholic Church is an institution in itself. Remember, these people run more than 7,400 schools in this country. 31% of education institutions in this country are run and owned by the Catholic Church. 31% means a 31% failure on the part of government to provide education, because that is their job. The Catholic Church has about 69 hospitals. They have about 117 dispensaries. They have health centers. In total, they own close to 1,000 health providing. And the Catholic Church is not making noise because they hate Ruto. No. Something needs to be clear. When you run 7,000 schools, and there was a government that was giving capitation to schools, and now you are faced with the ugly spectacle of a church having to send children home because it is impossible to run the school without funds. I mean, these children must eat. These children must have electricity in school. So I saw schools in Mount Kenya region where now they are being taken to court for non-payment, or if you've not paid for maize that was supplied, you've not paid for rice that was supplied. So they're being taken to court. So why are you putting the church in such an ugly position and government is not giving capitation to schools? On Sunday, it was read in all Catholic churches across the country.
Yes.
That tells
translated in all languages. It went
into every county, every sub-county, every ward. It gets more interesting. The Jumuiyas, which are small Christian communities within the Catholic Church, were told to even go and discuss that letter in their Jumuiyas on that Sunday afternoon. So this thing in one day got to close to 20 million people in one day. In one day. And Catholics are said to be about 40% of the Christians that we have in Kenya. So this thing in one day got to close to 20 million people in one day. So it tells you the impact of that church. That if that church was to tell its people, let's just walk to State House, each of you carry a rosary and a candle, that would be the end of this administration.
We are not actually pleading. We cannot and will never be cowed into silence.
So the question of IEBC, where is it? Where is it? Why is it not constituted? This is what we are asking. What? Or am I ni mimi nimesahau? Iko. Right now we have to call elections. Is there a body which will carry out that? So vitu kama hivyo tunaomba, na sisi tulifanya hilo kwa wema, so that we can really build a country. We are not doing that so that we destroy any system. No. We are raising issues that are coming from the ground, issues that are real, issues that we get from our people. And when we are raising them, it's not for any evil intention. It is that we can collaborate and see that this country gets what it needs. And we are praying, and that's why we are asking for IEBC and so on, so that people are given their freedom to exercise truly their democratic rights. But it's very important that this Kenya is looked at in a democratic way. Sisi tuna katiba. Na tungependa kuona watu wakinyanyaswa. Hapana. Tukiona watu wakizimwa. Hapana. tukiona watu wakiibiwa, ni kuibiwa au nini? Kuna abductions. Yes. That has happened, eh? Yeah. Watu wanapotea. Hapana. That's not like Kenya. And there is no amount of explanation that can tell us that, yeah. No. It's unacceptable in Kenya. Why are so many women being killed? Kwa nini?
Kwa hivyo wakati nitamuita maandamano, mutokee. Tukisema haki, na mimi ndio nitakuwa naongoza. Na tunaweza ingia State House. Wewe usicheze na sisi. Zote tunateseka, watu wanakufa hivyo bure kwa sababu matibabu imekuwa ipatika. Hii inaitwa anganisha na shia na wote. Si mnaikumbuka hiyo? Hata ieleweki ni gani. Na imekuwa shinda kubwa kwa watu. Na sasa wakaeleza. Na wakaambia kiongozi wetu kuna mambo mengi hawafurahii. Na uongo umekuwa mwingi katika nchi yetu. Watu wanaambiwa watafanyiwa hivi na wafanyiwi. Na hata sisi tunayaona na tunayapitia na ni sisi tuko pale. Tukiwaambia wanakuja wanatuambia nyinyi hamuna ukweli wa mambo yale mnasema. Halo? Hamkusikia wakisema hivyo jana? Walisema hatuna nini? Ukweli. Hebu uliza neighbor kama hatuna ukweli kweli. Mambo haya hatuna ukweli na yanafanyika mbele ya macho yetu. Yanafanyika tukiona, kwa hivyo tuko na ukweli. Yes, hatuwezi kuambiwa hatuna ukweli. Na uongo tumendanganywa ya lakini nimwambie Mungu wetu atudanganye. Mungu wetu hata tundanganya. Tutaweza kushinda yo.
For the elected leaders to hear the voice from the ground. And therefore, the only legitimate voice is the voice of the church. That is why the voice from the Catholic bishops and the voice of Glory Outreach Assembly today and many other clergy who are speaking in this country, it is the only legitimate voice. It is the only voice that represents the Kenyan people. It is the only voice that comes from the grassroots. And it is important that the government becomes sensitive to the feelings of the people.
Bishop Jackson Ole Sapit wanted the political class and those in government to come down from their high horses and listen to the concerns of Kenyans on pressing issues ranging from the bumpy transition from NHIF to SHIF, a university funding model they say isn't working, perennial delays in capitation for public schools, a punitive tax regime and unemployment.
If only the amount of force that the government used to crush the youth uprising is anything to go by, then there is no excuse why the government and its intelligence department cannot apprehend the perpetrators of violence in our backyard.
We are soon going to call for a national prayer to call all corrupt people into account, and for those who fail, we will courageously declare a curse upon them.
And the controller of budget actually stated publicly, and this is information that you have, that 2.2 billion has been spent in the office of the president and State House between July and September. If you do that calculation, it means that we spend in that office 23 million per day.
Oh my God.
And 1 million per hour. That cannot be sustainable. This is corruption after corruption after corruption. In a government that looked very Christian. The other day I was reading of somebody threatening Kenyans not to go to court. Kenyans have the right to go to court. And leaders should, political leaders, I wish they were hearing me, should never threaten Kenyans. They are there because we voted. And they are there as servants, not as bosses. Christianity is being men and women of integrity. You cannot use Christ to come to power, and then when you get there, you become a corrupt leader. What even saddens me now is when I hear the voice of the church being silenced. Unfortunately, the church seems to be in bed with the government. They can't challenge the government. They have become recipients of government appointments and recognitions. And that is dangerous. So corruption, if you're not careful, will permeate every part of the church. We have a weak parliament that can be used by the executive to add taxes to Kenyans. When this government was campaigning, they said they are going to reduce taxes. In fact, they were criticizing the then government, which they were part of, because of the high taxation. But today, the load of taxation is becoming heavier and heavier. And this is happening at a time when we hear of cases of grand corruption. So on one hand, you tax people. On the other one, the same government gets into scandals of corruption. Any government project is riddled in a lot of corruption, unfortunately. Most of the public resources are going into waste, unfortunately. So we hear the cry of our country. The cost of living, the depreciation of the Kenyan shilling against the dollar, which is affecting the prices of most of the commodities because we are net importers. When I hear of that cry, it is very sad. I hear of a ruling class that doesn't seem to care about the depressing situations of this country.
They should go slow on their attack on the Catholic bishops and the church leaders whenever we speak against corruption in this country. Honorable Shulei must go slow on her chest thumping and boisterous utterances against the people she considers anti-government.
Yesterday I listened to a video, and this is the former Chief Justice Maraga. He's speaking in his church, and he's talking about the young people being champions of integrity. And there was a corrupt importation, and he gave an order restraining that. And those who were doing that went to his friend, who was a lawyer, to try and circumvent the process. And the lawyer said, hey, I can't go to Justice Maraga. That guy has no price. That guy has no price. Then the corrupt team said, no, everybody in Kenya has a price. Then the lawyer said, sorry, for Justice Maraga, no price. Can somebody say, oh, that guy you're sending me to has no price? In other words, you can't buy him. Let me ask you today, and I'm not asking this because the police are here, but I'm asking this to even individual Christians. What is your price? Can you be easily corrupted? When politicians want to use the church to propagate their agenda, they say church and politics is one. When we become very tough on them, they say, no, you do the church things, leave politics to us. I am convinced, as a theologian, I am a politician as well. And politics is talking about the governance of a nation. And the church and church leaders must engage in such. So I wasn't just challenging the government. I was challenging myself as a believer, as a minister of the gospel, but also as a leader, because you can't challenge others when you can't challenge yourself.
When they want to impeach one of their own, in hardly 2 weeks, it is done. When the Catholic bishops gave their statement on one day, on the same day, 15 statements had been made against it. I wish they would use the same speed to respond to the issues affecting Kenyans.
The opposition, especially in this country today, they have been silenced. We only hear of lone voices which may not have impact, may not even prick the government to see things differently.
Respect our churches. We should be able to work together. We should not condemn whatever they are saying. We should plan to understand why are they saying that, so that we're able to correct areas which we feel are not proper. Because this country belongs to all of us. And whatever the leaders normally tell us are always positive. We need to investigate and say, why are they saying that? So that we're able to correct areas we feel are not proper.
Kwa muda huu, siasa ambazo zinazoendelea ni viongozi wa kidini, hasa dhehebu kubwa la Catholic, maaskofu kujitokeza na kutoa ushauri kwa serikali. Hili tusilitukue ni kwa kuwa ni ukosoaji, bali ni ushauri. Na ushauri una baraka. Ni vizuri serikali wasikie ushauri kutoka viongozi wa kidini. Mimi nasema isiwe ni wa Catholic tu. Hata viongozi wa kidini wote wanapoona mambo hayendi mazuri, ni wajibu tujitokeze tuseme ingelikuwa uzuri zaidi ifanywe hivi. Na inapokuwa mazuri tupongeze serikali, tumpongeze kiongozi ya kwa kuwa unalolifanya ni zuri na uendelee hapo, shikilia hapo hapo.
Now, has the church abandoned its coziness with the state? And are they on the path to reclaiming their lost glory? Well, the religious sector is tonight a step further out of what has been viewed as a very uncomfortable relationship with the government, thanks to the realization that the flock is increasingly pushing back on decisions made by the leaders. The government, however, seems determined to hold on to that relationship.
The political class and those in government come down from their high horses, listen for once, rather than seemingly perpetuate the commonplace culture of impunity. The governed do not need lectures, but services and honest engagement. Please concentrate on providing leadership in a meaningful way and first tackle the problems facing the country.
A state of this nature is reminiscence to a state of anarchy, where some people have the power to decide on our destiny and on our lives.
It seems the truth does not exist, and if it does, it's only what the government says.
I don't think over 30 bishops can meet and do a statement from nowhere. Kama kuna viongozi wanafanya public participation every day, ni viongozi ya kidini. Kwa sababu wako na waumini every day, every weekend. And if there are people who know what the ground is saying, is our church leaders.
The people of Israel needed a redeemer. Kenya need redemption as well. And this is so appropriate as we come to Christmas to think about redemption, because it's a biblical theme that is important even in our current context.
Wengine wakituona kanisani wanafikiria kwamba tumekujia siasa. Hatujakuja siasa kanisani. Tumekuja kanisani kwa sababu sisi ni Wakristo. Tumekuja kanisani kwa sababu tuko na imani. Na tuko na mpango ya kwenda mbinguni baada ya hii shughuli mingi.
Embu tulie tafadhali. Wakristo tutulie tafadhali. Today, the Diocese of Embu receives her 4th bishop and shepherd. It is a day of grace. We are in church, my dear people. Andoa Embu tuikanidhari. Tuikanidhari. Tuikaredi. Tuikaredi tuikanidhari. Tuikanidhari.
Bishops from the African Independent Pentecostal Church of Africa, AIPCA, were the third batch of Christian clerics to visit State House after their colleagues from the Presbyterian and Catholic denominations also visited the house on the hill.
Nawe mwanasiasa, speak the truth, ambia watu ukweli. Kama huna pesa, uambie huna pesa. Usiahidi watu mambo ambayo hayatafanyika.
And even as we engage in public discourse,
on matters that are important to the people of Kenya, we must be careful to be factual, lest we become victims of the things we accuse others of doing. I know you know what I mean.
Nowadays, many churches don't like preaching about Isaiah 53 because it's a weak way of presenting Christ. And modern Christianity doesn't like the idea of the suffering servant. We want to have glory without the cross. We want to have the trophy without participating in the race.
As the prophet Micah says, I quote, "You have been told, O mortal man, what is good, and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice, and to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God."